Okay, so this is the April koha-US web dev meeting. I was going to show off just a few things I've been working on, and I definitely prepared beforehand. So the first, all of my customizations are reactionary at the moment. So I discovered that we've got some permissions stuff going on that it's causing me headaches. So, so I've been working on the permissions area a little bit. So let me share my screen. And, so I found out that one of my librarians had super librarian, not to no in our policies. So I've been playing with just swapping out the checkboxes with icons, which then makes them dead. So nobody can accidentally or on purpose give themselves permissions that I don't think they should have. I've also been using a different symbol for things where we're just not using the functionality, just to make that a little bit clearer. I redid the buttons using Christopher's jQuery from the jQuery library. My old buttons are this, not as good, and they're not up to date because permissions keep getting added for some reason, which complicates this. So my old, oh no, I already switched in. I can't show you my old buttons. So the new buttons are there. The nifty new button that he added in that is the copy, which I thought was really nice, and it's going to help me kind of clean up some of the messes that I'm finding in permissions. So I can make one and then copy it to the others. I know there's a plugin for this too, but I think I'm too far down the rabbit hole for that. So this is the approach I've decided to take with this. And then because we can turn off jQuery by appending the URL, I still have access to those things that are locked and blocked on my end if I need to turn things on and off for people that are by default locked and blocked. The other thing I did, this toolbar by default has a select all, clear all option, which let people like check all. So it show all, hide all, but it also has check all, clear all. So I took away that check all because that's an easy way to just give yourself all the permissions, which I didn't want. So the jQuery, that is somewhere. Oh gosh. All right, so this is kind of the old code I was using. This is it's messy. There's probably a cleaner way to do this, but basically it's just selecting the divs and hiding them. That's for the check all and uncheck all, like I said. These are the different checkboxes for so the flags are these top level checkboxes, and then each sub permission has like a full ID. So I've just set the locks and the flags with different things. The other thing I did, let me bring back the one on here. It's not on the live server. Is if there were permissions where I didn't want them to be able to click the top level thing and check all the boxes, I replace that with an arrow just to indicate that some things under this are allowed, but some are not. So just trying to kind of visually improve, make it a little more clear for my staff members that are assigning permissions, what's available and why it's available and what's not available. Yeah, so, okay, this is the jQuery. And then again, the quick set buttons were just what I borrowed from the jQuery library that Christopher wrote. And then I went through and just swapped in the ones that I wanted those buttons to check and uncheck. And the copy thing, the main thing with the copy button is it requires a report. So I had to go in and add the report and then swap out that number there, which Christopher has noted in the instructions on that. So I'm noticing all the junk that I've been working on is here too. So the other thing I've been working on more today is the displays module, which I've shown before. I did come up with a bug on this one, and I filed that this morning. I'll put that in the chat if I can find the chat. So the bug I found while I was messing with this is I wanted to hide one of these columns, but there's no column setting for this column specifically, the holding library. So if I go over to table settings, it's this course reserves table. So there's a library and then it goes to staff note. And on this page, library is associated with home library. So when you check anything after that, it's off by 1. So if I do staff note and refresh this page, it didn't hide the staff note, it hid the holding library. So I reported that bug because it's usable, it's just not doing what it says as advertised. So that was number 2. And the third thing I had to share was my overdues report. I wonder if it works on this site. So this is the report I've been working on. That's I'm trying to make sure I don't pull up like personally identifiable information. That didn't work either. There we go. Okay, so this report, I built a button that then pops open a modal that then gives you the option to, it generates an overdue notice basically. So, and then it has a copy button so that they can take it into either an email or take it into Word and print out an actual letter. The problem I had with it was it's using like 3 different reports. So it's using this report and then it's using a report to pull the extra information. So all of this is generated in a report and then it's using a third report to pull the actual checkouts that the patron has. And it wasn't consistently loading that, and it still doesn't consistently load that data if the page gets too long. But I did that second report call on the button click, and that seems to have resolved most of the issues I had with it. And I can show you what that messy jQuery looks like too. This is all displayed stuff. So, and I'd like to try and pull this off with the API, but I couldn't figure out how to query checkouts with it. So I used reports instead. So this one is running report 2883. generation information, and it's pulling the card number off of this report and running it through here. And this is the, like I was saying, the blocks of information. So it's pulling the contact block, it's generating this wording, it's generating this wording, and then it's pulling the the transacting library for the most recent checkout, I think is what I set that at. And then the second report is 2881. No. I could have made that way easier. We'll wait for the page to reload. Okay, so that one pulls overdues again for that card number, which is the information that's getting populated in the table. And the rest of this is just building the button, building the notice, the modal, all that. So those are the sort of 3 WebDevy things I've been working on, I think.
What do you do with that notice? You view it and then you print it and send it out?
Yeah, so what I was trying to do is come up with like a generic way where they could do what they wanted to with it. So this was mostly prompted by one of my newest libraries. She has like a policy where they send 5 different notices. And so we're using koha's 3 notices, and then this is to sort of supplement the other 2, where they can run a report of what's overdue, and then sort of follow their existing workflow. Just an easy way to pull that information in a somewhat formatted manner.
And then print it and send it whenever they want. That's cool.
Yeah.
That should be you should put that in koha.
Sure. How do I do that? No, I talked to Margaret about this too at our monthly meeting, and she said there's some sort of a development sort of in the same vein spinning up. So maybe it will get put in koha.
There's been a lot of talk about instead of 1, 2, 3 overdue notices, being able to create like an arbitrary number of overdue notices.
And that would solve this problem too, I think.
Arbitrary numbers scare me because I hear libraries saying, mean we can send 50?
Yeah.
One a day.
Some library out there's gonna say that, you know. What I have libraries that use the overdue slip, because you can create that and format, and I'm wondering if there isn't a way that you could use that. You know, when you click on the overdue slip, it generates that notice, and it generates it for printing. But I'm wondering if there isn't some way that you could disable the printing and just so that just the notice appears, and then find a way to, instead of printing it, to copy it so that you can put it in an email. To hijack the print function off of that slip.
That's an idea.
Because I do have several libraries that use that overdue slip for that, and it's formatted like for the library that uses it the most. I have 2 libraries that use it. One of them uses it from time to time. The other one uses it regularly as part of their overdue workflow. But then they print them off and mail them to people, actually. So, but if there was a way to click the button and then give you a choice between copy it to the clipboard or print, it seems like that would be a way to do that without all of the steps in there of creating the reports. But I don't have the first idea how to actually implement that. Actually, I'm thinking there is a way to implement that. It's just because, yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a way to implement that. You could even add some code to to the template for that slip that gives you the button to click on if you want it. And then you could use a @media or @print function in the CSS for the template to say, don't print that button. Because you would need to get the URL for how it populates, for how the print button, when you click print, it opens it generates a URL that that does that. So you would need to find another way to generate that URL, and then disable the print box, the built-in browser's print function, and then click on a button in the report that you copy it instead of printing it. So I think there's probably a way to do that. It's a workaround, but it doesn't involve 3 reports.
Yeah. And then my report could just link out to the patron instead of linking out to 2 separate reports.
And then you wouldn't have the issue where sometimes the table doesn't populate the way you expect it to.
Right. Yeah.
And it would be customizable. You could have each library that wants to use it could have a different template.
Good. Thank you.
With your permission jQuery there, do you have any concern that your users would not have JavaScript turned on or know how to manipulate the DOM and change their permissions that way?
Not on purpose. I don't think any of my librarians are that malicious. It would be more of a accidental thing, but
Sure.
generally we only let the larger libraries control permissions at all anyways. So it's like a handful of people, but the handful of people are the ones messing things up. So I'm trying to just make that a little more locked down.
I find that Koha, the staff interface, doesn't really work right. Doesn't work sometimes in some cases at all if you don't have the jQuery turned on. And I don't know about Jason, but I don't have anybody here that's got the sophistication to jump in there and start manipulating the DOM.
I might have a few people, but I don't think they would. I mean, they have bigger things to worry about than trying to get around permission.
Sure.
And I mean, really, the goal with our permission setup is to declutter their screens anyways, because there's like a whole bunch of stuff we don't use at all. So if they've turned on Super Librarian, then they're seeing a bunch of stuff that they can't use anyways. The problem I had is they were, the main issue I ran into was they got confused between record deletion, batch record deletion, and batch item deletion. And then they put a bunch of old barcodes, which are 4 to 5 digits, into batch record deletion, which also master records. So they deleted a bunch of records and items by mistake. It wasn't malicious. But if I can take that away from most people, then I think that'll save some future headache.
That's my experience. Most of the people, only SEKLS staff can change the permissions here. And I'm the only one on the SEKLS staff that even knows what half of the permissions are. But in the past, we've had people that have had permission to write reports, and then somebody would always go in there and they would think that they would know how to write a report, and then they would write a report that would lock up the system. Back in the days before the system would just time out a report that would hang up. That was a great discussion I remember having with Larry, like on Friday afternoon at 4:45 on the Friday before a whole 3-day weekend, and working with Larry on the phone until like 7 o'clock at night my time, trying to get Koha back online because somebody had written a report that majorly screwed everything up. And so that's, most of the reason that we have some certain permissions locked down is not because they're gonna maliciously go in and do something bad. But it's because they're gonna think they know what they're doing and shut the whole system down for everybody.
I definitely didn't do that earlier this week. Trying to query action logs. Pretty sure my system went down because of that report. But we're gonna pretend that it didn't. And I think the systems team got it up really fast. So yeah, not using that report anymore.
Yeah, I always try to write a limit whenever I do any, like limit 50 records when I do action log test reports before I'm sure that they're not going to generate like 1.5 million records.
Yeah, that would have been the smart thing to do. But, you know, sometimes you just have to make sure everyone's awake and see how many people send you an email when your system goes down. Oh, I was gonna share the jQuery library link for the permissions thing, just in case anybody's watching the recording and wants that. And yeah, that's the right one. Yeah, I think that's all I've got this month. Anybody else
Well,
have?
I can show you what I've been working on. I've been trying to Aspenize my OPAC main screen. And then you can see some of the covers aren't coming through there. So this is what I got at the moment with groups that then go into smaller sections that you can select. And some of these aren't formatted. I've been playing around with spacing, so some of them look different than others right now. And it's using a library thing for libraries cover widget, which we've had for years. And we currently have it as a scroll on our live OPAC. But we'd like to put more covers, you know, out there in a grid format. So this is what I've been working on and poking around with things. And of course, trying to get it to look right on different sized devices and trying to get it to look right when you're logged in and when you're not logged in, and trying to sort of understand some bootstrap stuff, which I really don't quite. And so, and then some of the things have to be set in the CSS in Koha, but some of the things have to be set in CSS in the library thing for libraries widget. And so it's a lot of back and forth, but I think once I get it set, you know, it'll work. And what I started with trying to see if there was any way to take the cover flow and break it out of a carousel looking thing and into a grid thing, but that didn't go very far. Maybe it's possible, but anyway, that's what it's like at the moment. Children's, and like I say, they're in different spacing and stuff right now because I haven't completely settled on what I might go with.
Looks good.
Yeah, I like it.
I would like it if there were a like alternative to cover flow that did something like this as a default, because with this, I will have to go in and update the things in library thing to make sure I'm, you know, getting new covers in, which is not ideal. And if it were based on the cover flow and the reports, I wouldn't have to worry about that.
So really, cover flow would have to do a grid type display and not move, right?
Yeah, like this one, what I've got it set on right now is, just to show the grid. And then I think this one I've got it, you can set a refresh thing in the library thing widgets. And so like every 15 seconds, this one should update to a new set of covers. But instead of, doing a carousel and moving, we're thinking we'd rather have, a lot of covers right there so the patron can see them, and it feels a little bit more Amazon-like.
Yeah. You might already know this or have looked here, but for cover flow related stuff, I'm putting in the chat. It's
Okay.
all driven by jQuery Flipster. So if you can do the thing, it's probably somewhere in the documentation there.
I know when I played with it a long time ago, I was able to break it into more of the way it works now, where it highlights the cover in the middle and it's larger.
Yeah.
I was able to get it where it was just an even line of covers so that everything was the same size, and it was a little more uniform looking, at least to me, and that worked. But we're kind of wanting to move away from the scrolling, into something like this. So
from an accessibility point of view, the static page is better too, without any moving parts.
So that's what I've been spending probably way too much time on.
Seems fun though.
It is fun. And then of course I do something that breaks it, and it's like, oh, what did I do? And then my
It's the
test
funnest
server,
part is when you break it, then you have to fix it. That's where all
Yeah,
the
then
learning happens.
and my test server died yesterday, and I'm thinking, what in the world did I do? But they told me no, it was something about I'd gotten a whole bunch of stuff, I guess, going on in the logs, and the test server had built up to a level that it couldn't handle it, and they had to go in and do some stuff to stop.
I also thought I broke the test servers at the same time yesterday, Barbara, but it was neither of us that broke the test servers. So
I'd like to say it was me, but I wasn't on the test server. Our test server yesterday.
I don't know if I mentioned this last time, I might have, but if you look at community right now, Owen's doing a lot of good work to get rid of jQuery UI, which is no longer being updated. So if you do any customizations with jQuery UI tabs or the accordions or the drag and drop stuff, you may want to look into switching that over to Bootstrap. Is the way of doing those things. For a long time, I've done a lot of our cover flows with jQuery UI tabs, so I'm gonna have to go back through and redo some of that in Bootstrap. It sounds like you mentioned you're using Bootstrap for your new cover flow thing, Barbara.
I think I've got some Bootstrap elements working. I'm a little confused. And I go look at other sites, and it's like, okay, it looks like they're doing this, so I'll drop something in and see
Sure.
what happens. And so
As long as you're with the jQuery UI, you have to put a little piece of JavaScript in your OPAC user.js to initiate the tabs, at least for the tabs part of jQuery UI. So if you're not doing that, you're probably not using jQuery UI. So that's good.
That's good. I did have a question on, we are fine free now, and I know a lot of libraries, have done that. And I just saw the other day when I happened to log into my account on the OPAC, and it brings up the user summary that shows what you've got checked out and all of that. And it says, you owe like $3 in fines and charges. And I'm thinking, well, we're fine free now. So do I really want it to say, fines? Do I want it to just maybe say, charges? But when I went to it, I think that text is like not really in and see, this is where I don't even know what I'm talking about, a div, a span, a class, or whatever. It's not in a thing that I can like get to easily and change. So I didn't do anything with it. But would anybody's opinion be that if libraries have gone fine free, that maybe that's something that needs to be looked at, where it's either, I don't know, customizable, or maybe just that part needs a class or whatever, so you can easily get to it?
I'm poking around here to see, we have it just as your charges in the OPAC. So I'm trying to see if there's some custom code that Dan wrote when Dan redid our OPAC to remove fines, to remove the word fines or fees or whatever it was before.
It would be nice if that was like somehow put into a translation. You can translate those to whatever you want. I'm sure the word fine occurs a lot.
Are you talking like on the front page, Barbara?
Yeah, on the front page. So, yeah, so not when you're logged into your account and looking at all of that, but when you
There's
flip
that
back
little
over,
table.
that, yeah. And it summarizes, the different things, and it's there that it'll show, an amount, and then here I'll.
Yeah, user summary, 2 checkouts, 2 overdues, etc. I don't have any fines in the account that I'm on right now, so I'm not seeing what that says.
So this part here, and although this one I don't have any, but
Yeah,
it's that little user summary box.
So the numbers have a class. So you might be able to target it that way. So like if you inspect the number 1 next to message, so mine has fines. So the span is user underscore fines underscore count. And then the text is after that.
And that's where I have trouble with jQuery. It's like if I can target one thing, can be successful, but if I have to like target one thing and another thing and another thing, putting that all together starts to not make as much sense to me.
And really, like, it would be nice if there was a way you could do that without having to write complicated jQuery.
Maybe I'll open a bug on that then.
I was going to say that wouldn't be a bad idea, and explain how fine-free libraries don't want to see the word fine on their OPAC anywhere.
We exhausted our brainosphere. That's the new word I learned last night. Does anybody else have anything they want to share? Or problems they want to try and solve?
Like I said, I got nothing. I took a week off in March and I've been busy since I got back with a whole bunch of other things. So, and I've had my camera off because I'm at home with a sick kid. So, or who's not really sick, but she was diagnosed with COVID, so she can't go back to school until she's had 24 hours after she's had a negative result. So we're all just kind of bored and suffering with the crappy internet at the house.
Well,
Here's a quick, interesting web dev thing. Bug number 30225. Just if anybody's interested, I'm very curious as to how this goes, and the introduction of a new, more modern JavaScript framework into Koha. I'm not working on this bug or anything. Jonathan is, but just curious to see where it goes, what happens.
Well, I would comment, but I don't even know what the first two lines mean under the to-do.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the view router.
Oh, you're in the test plan, Barbara? Is that
Well,
what you're talking about?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
went down to the comment number 1 and it says same as bug such and such, and then it says to do, and it talks about view router, and I'm kind of lost.
Yeah, as far as testing it and stuff, I'd say it's on the more complex end of stuff. I haven't really tried to test it either, but I'm just in terms of having a different and new JavaScript framework for front end stuff in Koha is interesting to me. We'll see if it even goes places.
all right.
Yeah, I think we've run out of things to say to each other.
We got our awkward silence
Almost
in.
there.
Thank you for sharing that, Lucas. It's
Yeah.
interesting for sure. I'll look at that some more. See if I can wrap my head around it. And we filled a whole almost 45 minutes. I think that's good. It's not our shortest meeting for sure.
We did good.
So we will meet again next month at the same general time and date that I don't have pulled up, but you'll see it on your calendars.
We'll see you all later. Good to see everybody.
Thanks,
Take care,
everybody.
everyone.